friends, so we are going to go ahead and start with our Q&A session here. Many of these questions have been formed as a result of Mr. McBrearty's background. And again, if you have any follow-up questions to these, there will be time at the end for you to ask your own questions. So we're just going to get right into the first one. So at what point during your military service did you decide that you wanted to journal your experience? What was it that you hoped a future reader would take away from your writing?
Yeah, I covered some of this, actually some of his questions I covered in the discussion earlier, but you know, I had come out of graduate school and I was in grad school and working full-time, grad school part-time, and the year before I deployed into the deployment, we got mobilized. So I was already doing all the research and American history and all that, so I just continued the momentum of my researching and documenting and writing. So I wanted to document what we were doing because it was part of American history, and I just wanted to document, you know, I didn't really know where it would take me. I had no idea it would end up, you know, being a bunch of books and, you know, going on lectures and, you know, and teaching and book signing and all that stuff. But here I am, you know. So, yeah.
Always important to write down even the little pieces of history.
Yeah, yeah.
So earlier, we talked about how you transitioned from writing the combat journals to the golf lessons to then the children's books. You covered why you went, you know, down that path, but I did have a follow-up question to that. So did you find it difficult when framing the writing for a children's book compared to your other writing for a more mature audience?
For me, like it's a natural transition, and it was just based on observations of the two Shih Tzu dogs running around my house all day long, going crazy dogs. It's just a barrel of laughs. So I started documenting what they were doing, and I brought my phone, put my little Samsung notes in the phone, and before I know it, I turned out a couple books, and I wanted to have a positive message for the kids. So all the books have a positive message, you know, like a life lesson, and you know, some based on Army values, some based on faith. So you know, it's a lesson learned for the kids and entertainment at the same time, and some beautiful illustrations.
Okay. And speaking of some of the life lessons that you mentioned, there seem to be common themes of inspiration, motivation, and leadership in many of your books. You even have a guide for other writers to help them with getting published on Amazon. What is one lesson that you wish you learned earlier about the publishing process?
Oh man, the lessons learned. Oof. I would say lessons learned. You got to be prepared for rejection, and one of the biggest things that takeaway was how little support I got from like family and friends. It's either that or they're too busy or they don't read. I don't know, I can't explain it, but I was able to find, you know, support through the veterans groups and writing groups, and I'm in a bunch of them, and some of them are even outside the state, and we do Zooms and such. So that's kind of my takeaway is, you know, you find, you know, it's kind of like a veteran thing, you know. I always gravitated to the VA, to other veterans, and I'm very comfortable in that community, you know, and again, I don't really wear a rank on my sleeve or anything. I'm just, you know, they call me Mac. Some call me Colonel Mac, but man, I started out as a private, you know. I was scrubbing the latrines and the floor and all that, you know, as a PV1, Parris Island, South Carolina, and, you know, worked my way up. But I don't really carry that rank thing too much, you know. To me, it's not a big deal. We're all veterans, you know. We're all the same cloth, you know, cut from the same cloth. So.
All right. In addition to a lot of your written works, you regularly publish videos on YouTube. How did you start to plan which videos you wanted to produce, and how did it differ from choosing your next book?
You know, it's the whole writing thing for me. It's like you see people on TV. They talk about, oh, the scariest thing for a writer is that blank page and all that. Well, it's not for me, because I don't approach it like, oh, I start out with a blank page. That's not how I start. I start with a spark, an interest that I have. And I stay down my lane. And my lane is nonfiction. Okay, you see, my books are about leadership, about leading troops, soldiers, Marines, about leading a work crew, about how to write, how to help other people learn how to write, how to help veterans learn how to write. Some self-help stuff through my experiences and other veterans I've done podcasts with on how they got through issues in life. Because, you know, the civilians, they don't all understand us, but we understand each other, you know, and it's, you know, I look for that spark and that, what do I like? What, you know, and it's interesting because literally I could work on 3, 4, 5, 6 different books or projects at the same time, okay? So when I typically work, I don't have the physical stamina to have some medical issues where I can't sit and work all day or 8 hours and all that. I can't do that physically. So I might only get an hour here and an hour there. I have to take breaks. I have to walk around, and it's just, that's my problem. But I deal with it. So I'll typically, let's say in the morning, take care of my dogs, do my chores, get my coffee going. I'll sit down for an hour or two, hour and a half, and that's when I'm most productive, fresh in the morning when I have my energy. And then I have to take a break. I go do more coffee or take the dog out or do whatever, make a phone call. And then I come back, and I don't always go back to the same project. And that's what, for me, it's interesting. I follow my instincts. It's kind of like a soldier's instinct, a Marine's instinct for survival, you know? Like a cop has instincts. That's how they survive on the streets. All you veterans have instincts that you developed through your military experiences. And so I rely on those instincts. I call them like, you know, just a soldier's gut feeling, instinct. And I follow those instincts and call it a spark or motivation. And I go down that path. So I often won't work on one book for weeks on end, one book. I work on, unless I set a deadline for myself, like these 5 books I did, I set hard deadlines. So I kind of cut back on the other projects and focused on those. And then one at a time, boom, 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 got them done. But typically I will work on different projects at the same time. This is an anthology. There's 2 anthologies right here, written by veterans. And Aaron is a gentleman in one of our groups, and we're doing another anthology. So that's one of my projects that the VA hospital, Loma Linda, has a writing support group. And they asked me to help them put an anthology book together. So that's one of my projects I'm doing now. So I've kind of scheduled Thursday mornings, I work on that book. And I'm, like I said, I've been doing this, I'm pretty productive and efficient with my time, because a lot of the learning curve is past. And so I know what I'm doing, and I can get a lot done quickly. That's one reason why I'm here, is to try to help you guys and to move along in the process or get you started. And that's kind of what I'm doing with that group. I don't profess to be the expert or anything, but you know, I have a certain set of skills, and I obviously have I have the ability to produce a product, a book, literature. So, and it's not landed me in jail or anything. You know, so I follow my instincts and my guts, and my gut might say, I want to work on this project all day, and I do that. Or what's unique for me is I also have the videos, the YouTube stuff. So in the afternoon, I can change total gears and jump on a video and start editing that. You know, so that's pretty cool. It's a totally different animal than it is writing a book or starting a book or whatever. Totally different. So for me, it's cool. It's like, oh wow, it's refreshing, it's something new. So I never seem to get bored. And you know, like I said, I mentioned in the lecture that you know, I think I was spared for a reason, and I think the reason's why I'm here today. And this is the reason, is to do this, and it's to prolong the legacy of my 1,000 soldiers that went down range and my 5 that didn't make it back. And I really think, and when you have that kind of, you know, spiritual guide behind you, I mean, you can't help but to be successful. You know, it's like karma. You know, when you have the Lord on your side, you know, or Buddha or whoever your guy is, you know, when you're in one with them and they're on your side, man, things work out in your favor. You know, it's kind of like, I was going to talk about like my ending comments, you know, it's like the golden rule, you know, treating people like you want to be treated. You know, when you live your life that way and live honorably, in my experience, you know, karma comes your way. And so, getting back to your question, I don't know if I answered that. I tend to...
You addressed how you switch gears from writing to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then I did actually have a follow-up question. So obviously you stay busy. Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on, and why would it be your favorite project? I
love that question because I get it all the time. And I have the generic answer, but you know, I follow my gut answer of the gut, and it's like I mentioned in the Lakeside video. That lady was very intuitive. She goes, "Which one of your books is the favorite?" Because she's read like all of them, and she's actually done book reviews for most of them. And one thing about book reviews, okay, book reviews like Amazon, okay, us writer guys live for reviews, and we can't seem to ever get them. I don't know what it is. I'm in a lot of writing groups with like, I probably know 100 writers, and only 2 of them have written reviews for me. You know, I don't know what it is. People just don't do it. It's so easy. You go to Amazon. You put the book in, at the bottom it says write a review, you put a review in. If you have an Amazon account, you can write a review. You don't even have to buy the book. But anyway, I digress. So what was the question?
What was your favorite
favorite
book or video you made?
The favorite thing. Again, writers, we're never short on stories. I got stories, I could sit here all day with different stories. That question's like, which one's my favorite book? I got 20 books. I got about 6 in the hopper, and in the anthology. You know, I really equate it to like asking, you know, anybody in here a parent? Anybody in here had kids? It's like asking you, which one was your favorite kid? How are you going to answer that question? That's touchy. So for me, these are all my children, and I love them all pretty equally. You know, in the videos. You know, some are better than others. Some spend a little bit more time, some less time, but I think all my videos are kind of getting better as I progress. But I have a fondness for Claire the magical dog, you know, the little Shih Tzus. And somebody here was talking about somebody had a Shih Tzu in their family, and man, oh man, Shih Tzu owners are fanatical about their dogs. They are, and they're high maintenance. These dogs. These are like prima donnas, man. Just go on YouTube and search for videos, funny videos about you. There's millions of them. I've put a few out myself, but they're just so funny, and they're very stubborn dogs. They dig to China. That's how I got the Dig to China book. I mean, they dig all the time, and they have selective hearing. You know, they don't. You know, they hear what they want to hear. You know. And they live for treats, you know. And so I could go on and on about my silly dog, but you know, I'm a little fond of those. And I got my family in all of them. My dogs are in them. And then, you know, like the one I just completed is called Claire and the Service Dog. And one of my writing group, written by veterans, Cal State San Bernardino, is a psychologist, and his wife's a psychologist, and he's retired Air Force, and he works strictly with veterans and PTSD, stuff like that. So he helped me come up with the idea of service dogs, and he helped me a little bit with the story. And I created Claire and the Service Dog. And the story takes place, you know, she finds out what a service dog's about and tells a story, and then it tells it to the kids, and then moral of the story, Claire now wants to become a service dog. So the book ends, and she got a little, it says wannabe service dog jacket, you know. But honestly, those 2 dogs were my service dogs. And I opened my retirement book. My military life is my autobiography. I'm trying to get a book deal on that, but I've completed it a while ago. And then a continuation of that is my retired military life. The subtitle for that is How the Veteran Administration and My 2 Shih Tzus Saved My Life. And I said, the first paragraph is, that won't fit on the book cover. So I just put how the VA saved my life. But it should be how the Shih Tzus saved my life, because they did. They brought me up and gave me kind of a purpose and a meaning, and I was lucky to find writing, and here I am.
All right, so that's actually a perfect transition to our final question here before we open it up to the audience. You've had an honorable and distinguished career both in and out of combat. Is there one lesson that you've learned at any point in your life that you feel has brought you the most amount of success?
I kind of alluded to it. It's doing what's right. In my leadership book, the subtitle to that is doing the difficult right and not the easy wrong. And that's a very good way to live and approach, your life. And I wouldn't say I'm overly religious man, but I'm a highly spiritual man. And you probably won't meet anybody that prays more than me. But I don't do it in a formal setting all the time, but I don't think I have to. I talk to the man all the time, and I'm at one with him. So I think, it could be Buddha, it could be Mrs. Buddha, or whoever your spiritual person is, or if you don't even have one. But I think if you live right, treat people right, it's like the golden rule, karma comes back to you. And that would be my takeaway, everything I've ever learned in life. I've come full circle. I was never a walk in the park. I got, I got 40 years of marriage. That could literally be a whole other book. Talk about ups and downs, peaks and valleys. Holy boy, 2 kids, 2 grandkids. I've been around the ringer. It's not all been given to me on a platter. And I didn't make general officer. So I did. But I did okay for a guy that started as a private. But this whole retirement thing and the writing thing, man, it's just, I feel like I've been blessed. Just being here with you guys, I feel blessed. It's Armed Forces Day, and I'm with veterans. Can't get any better than that,
All right, well, we appreciate your wise words. If anyone has any questions for Mr. McBrearty, we'll go ahead and pass the microphone around now. So I can swap
you got it
real quick.
Yeah.
Yours.
Oh, right on, right on. When I get a mic like this, I still think I'm like Tom Jones,
I have a question. What are your dog's names?
Oh, okay. My daughter named, can you hear me okay?
Your dogs.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. My daughter named them because I inherited these dogs. And they're named after 2 Disney characters, Claire and Belle. That's why I got Claire the Magical Dog in the book. Yeah. It's,
okay,
I think
Claire and Bill.
I think the mermaid.
I wanted to make a comment. You have a Bill Murray thing going on. I don't know if anybody's ever.
Hey, he did those golf movies.
Yeah.
Maybe I should look into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Gopher, come here, Gopher. Yeah.
Thank you for everything that you've shared with us, your veteran experience and with the writing and your new career as a published author. Out of all of the books that you shared with us, one kind of stands out a little bit when you talked about the motivation for veterans to write. So many veterans that I've come across that they came back with the PTSD and they're so closed to writing. What was your experience with the most difficult veteran, and how did you get that person to actually share and start writing, to come out of that hard shell?
This might sound self-serving, but anybody I meet that has any interest at all in writing, particularly the veterans, I point them in the direction of my 3 books. Those books were written for them, for people that want to learn how to write. The first book, okay, basic, it's so basic, it literally tells you how to pick a pencil up and how to open a page and how to start. I have exercises in the first book. And even in the back of the book, you have like worksheets, And for example, okay, here, and it's right out of that book. there's several writing exercises to start writing, okay? Anybody in here could do. Anybody could do if you can read and write somewhat, okay? And it's in that first book, How to Get Published on Amazon. It's got writing exercises. For example, I mean, I could show you the book and take you right through it. So one writing example is the picture example, okay? And I told the writing group, and I think it was our writing group from the Thirsty group from the VA hospital writing group, I told everybody to bring a photo in. It could be your military photo, your family, anything, your dog. And everybody brought a photo in. And then I said, okay, I want you to write something about that photo, okay? And then I want you to write one sentence, okay? And then tomorrow, tomorrow I want you to look at that photo again, and I want you to write a second sentence. And then the third day, I want you to look at that photo and write a third sentence. And then fourth, and then by the time you get to about 10 days of looking at this photo, and you're only doing a sentence at a time, you have a whole 10 sentences, you have a whole paragraph or two. And then, so I take it through an example of mine when I was a Sea Cadet. You know, and I build it by a sentence by a sentence. I started out with one word. And I think the two words were Sea Cadet, because I had a picture of me as a Sea Cadet. And that's how my military career started. I was like 14 or 15. So how it started was two words, Sea Cadet. And then the next day I wrote, Sea Cadet got uniforms. You know, the next sentence was, and I did it the next day. So that you're not forcing yourself to sit down, I'm going to write. So about the third or fourth day, okay, and then I got into, I did my correspondence courses. Okay, then another day, so I'm building on what I already wrote. The next one is, I went to boot camp to May, New Jersey. Oh, that was a whole nother thing there. Told a little bit about boot camp. Then the next day I wrote a little bit more. Oh, I got to go on a ship, on a Coast Guard cutter. That was another little thing I wrote, another sentence or two. Then I started getting these more paragraphs. You see how it built up? Then I got alcohol involved. You know, this is where this thing was going. And it said that, I'll never forget, because I was underage. When I went on that ship, I had just graduated high school, and I was 18 years old. Drinking age in Pennsylvania is 21. You can't go to bars and drink, all right? So in New Jersey, it was 18. So this next part of this little story was, I got to drink in a bar, you know, and it was legal on the base. I got to drink at the E-Club, had a beer, man, it was so cool. And so I'm building this story. Then the moral of the story, where this thing ended up, was a big life lesson, because it was also time on that ship I spent that summer, where one of the seamen, it was about E4, E3 bosun's mate, active duty Coast Guard, drank an entire bottle of schnapps. And he got so alcohol sick, poisoned. And I saw this, and I was just 18-year-old Sea Cadet. He had to get carried onto the ship, and somebody had to stay with him for 3 days because he kept vomiting, and we're afraid he'd die of his own vomit. And so my life lesson was alcohol responsibility. I learned at 18, and it followed me my whole life. And so that's where that whole story ended up. It's a life lesson, and it started out with two words. Sea Cadet on the first day. The second day. So you see, that's one exercise. It's in my first book on how you can start writing. That's the picture exercise. The other is a journal exercise. Okay, it's the same principle. You write in the journal. You start a journal. Put a date. You write a sentence. The next day, you come in. You write another sentence. You just start building that journal day by day. And eventually you're going to get more and more sentences. You're going to end up with a paragraph. That's how you develop a story. And before you know it, you have a whole chapter. And then you keep going like I did for 2-year deployment. You ended up with 2,500 pages of journal and turn it into 5 books. So those are like 2 examples of how do I start? I mean, I don't know anything. You say, this is too much. I can't do this. But it started out with that Sea Cadet story, that little exercise, you know. Another exercise is, it's called free writing, okay? And this is, you get a little bit more into it, but this is fun. You get a timer, let's say 5 minutes, okay? No phone, no internet, no nothing, no radio, no outside stimulus. It's you sit down, pen and paper or computer, 5 minutes, it's called free writing. Write. Whatever comes in your head, write. No punctuation, no nothing, just write. Right. I'm here, I'm looking at the clock, I'm looking at this guy over here, he's over here itching his head, type. It's free writing. And that's exciting because you'll be surprised what you can come up with. Okay? You have something in here to talk about. We all have experiences. The veterans always have stories. I never met a veteran that didn't have some stories. So I just write about mine, you know, and it's, you know, it's kind of like a calling for me. But, so does that give you an idea of
Yes, thank you.
some ways of getting started, you know? And I'll throw this out here, and I'll leave my contact information for you all. Feel free. I will do anything I can to help you, as your group or individually. You know, that's what I do.
Did you bring any of those books with you?
Yeah, actually, all the books here, if anybody wanted to buy a book, they certainly can buy a book today. The how-to books, to be honest, I have sold out of the part 1. I have tons of part 2 and 3. Part 1 you have to get online because I've just, everywhere I go they buy them. And I just can't keep them in stock. But I have plenty of 2s and 3s. Any book that you want to buy, you can buy any book today. Or if you don't want to do that, you can buy them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I don't know, some bookstores have stuff, but Amazon is usually your best price and they'll deliver it in 2 days. Yeah.
Sean, I'd like to thank you for your presentation today, and it gave me a lot of material to write. I just have to get up off of my aspiration and do it. You know. I'm pushing 94. I will be 94 on my next birthday. And so many things that I want to put on write, put on paper. I've just been having disease and procrastination.
Yeah. See, that's a story there. You know what I'm saying? I tell the group, capture that. And we have another gentleman that does it in that group that does it, computers, all that. He doesn't do any of that. I said, I don't care. We're going to record him, tape record him, and we're going to get it transcribed. And I kind of assigned one of the younger vets. I said, you're in charge of that. We have a guy that doesn't have the physical abilities to type and computers and stuff, but he's got more stories than anybody I ever met. Vietnam guy, and so that's how we're that's how we're taking care of that gentleman. And with Aaron has 93 years of life, including combat and stuff like that. I mean, good Lord. He has many adventures, you know, and you know, I suggested to him, I said, this is what I'm doing. And at the end of my military life biography, at the end, the last chapter, I broke down my life by decade. 0 to 10, like, you know, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 50, 60. And I broke it down, and then I broke down each decade to 2 words, you know? And so this is just a style that I came up with, you know? And so, like, for example, I just remember, like, the Marine Corps in the 20s when I was doing 300 PFT, 300's a max. You know, I remember stud and broke. You know, I had no money, but I was a stud, you know. So that summed up that decade. And, you know, and then another decade was like, I'm learning, but I've not made it yet, you know. And then there's another decade around 50 or something. It's like, hey, I've made it, but not found it yet, you know. And I kind of categorized my whole life that way by decade. And then I got up to like 70. I said, I hope I make it. And then I said 80 to 90. I said, that'd be really pushing things. 90 to 100. I said, who are you kidding? You know, like I'm not going to make it that long. But That's an example of, I suggested there, and I said, you have such an exciting life. Break it down by either key event, like a childbirth, that's a key event, or by time frame. And I broke mine down by decades. And you look back on that decade, what was a significant event? Well, you had elementary school, okay, I broke my leg, and then, so, I had some life experiences in grade school, I mean, I was in the hospital for almost a year, I broke my leg. It's crazy, but, so you break that's one way of doing it. To another technique that beginning writers, a lot of writers do, even advanced writers, they always have a pad and paper with them, always by their bedside table. My best ideas used to always come to me. I lay down and start relaxing and going to sleep. I used to always write little notes down on the pad and paper next to my bedside table. A lot of writers do that. Now I've now gone to putting them in the Samsung Notes, but I used to do that all the time. I have like little like 3-week binder things just full of notes like that, But that's another way. Just like Aaron said, you get that idea or energy. You need to have a pen and paper somewhere available where you just take a note. It can be 2 words, 2 words. You don't have to write a whole dissertation. Just all you got to be 1 word or 2 words. Guys who were in Vietnam. I mean, good Lord, they all have experiences there. So maybe it was that one day at San Juan Hill or wherever. That's just put that down, and then you have a whole story there. But you write it later. You just follow your little instincts, the spark, make a note of it somehow so you can elaborate on it later. That's another technique for writing. You don't have to sit down and do a dissertation. And you just write. It starts with 1 word. And that first book has exercises in there. There's about 5 exercises. And there's other books. I mean, I read a bunch on how to do this stuff. But, yeah.
So I think you have time for one more question. If you want to finish off.
Well, I was going to throw a couple, 3 questions. Well, first off, I'm kind of technical, but you got your jump wings. Okay, I just curiosity for me, but you did your jump wings. Did you have to do out of the 5? Did you have to do a low altitude?
Yeah, so I went to the airborne story. Oh God, I'll tell you, I literally went to airborne school for 2 or 3 reasons. One, I was a Marine in Army school. Okay, I was an enlisted Marine reservist, and I was gung ho. I woke up and go to bed doing PT. I was just a gung ho dude. And I'm with all these Army guys, and that's all I ever heard about was this airborne and air assault and airborne. And I'm a Marine. I'm like, they don't give you all these wings to wear and all these patches and stuff. I never understood the allure of this airborne crap. That was one reason why I wanted to check it out. And 2, I was scared to death of heights. True story. I said, I want to go there to get over this fear of heights. I mean, I really had a fear of heights. I still do. I got over it after that experience, but years later it came back. And it's funny because that story I'm telling, I don't know how to put it in a book or in a video, but I have an acquaintance from back in the day, Marine Corps guy. And now he's an old dude, and getting around in a wheelchair and stuff. And he goes to these veteran parties, and I hear him tell my story about airborne. And it's like, wait, where did I hear that before? But they say, the author says, imitations of best form of flattery. It's like, this guy's like stealing my story. But that's a true story. Airborne, I went there because I was afraid of heights. Airborne consists of 3 weeks, okay? Ground week, where you literally start jumping off a chair and a table and you work your way up. Then there's tower week, and they put you up in towers. And you end up going up to about 250 feet and then do a controlled drop. And then the 5th week is jump week. And then we did, I think, 3 jumps out of jets and 2 out of C-130s. Big difference in the style of jump. They're all static line. Well, I'm sorry, I'm getting old. Your question was?
What altitudes did you have to jump?
They were fairly low altitude, all of them. Yeah, there was no halo stuff. It was all like, I want to say 2,500 to 5,000 feet. You know, they were low.
So your lowest was, what, 500?
I think 2,500. Oh no, 500 would be a combat jump.
Oh, that's,
Oh my
that's
God.
what I'm getting at. Did you
Good
have
Lord.
to do 800 or 5, or did you have to do an 800 or a 500?
Not a 500, absolutely not. I want to think the lowest might have been at 1,200. In the school environment, they don't take those kind of risks.
Oh, okay.
That would be for a tactical, real world, the guys are shooting at you, jump.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know that in the Marine Corps, Recon Rangers, they got their jump. They had jump wings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the Marine Corps they have a.
Very familiar.
But that was a special forces. That was recon. You know.
Yeah, that's to be in recon in the Marine Corps. It's like being in the Green Beret in the Army.
Yeah, right.
It's like being a Navy SEAL. It's the same kind of degree of expertise. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The next question is: did you, in combat time, did you pack a diary with you as you were going through your?
What I did was, and that's a good question, because when I was coming out of the grad school, going into combat, one of the biggest decisions I had to make was, am I going to keep a handwritten journal or do it electronically? Best decision I made my entire life was go with electronics, because I could back it up and all that. And what I was actually doing, my Marine Corps buddy Duke, we were in OCS together, and we stayed in touch over the years. Every month I would send him a DVD, because I was such a big file, it had to be a DVD. I'd mail him a DVD of my journal. You know, I did every month. That way, I'd have documentation in case I got hit. At least my word would get out. You know, it's not sitting on some hard drive nobody sees. So, and when I came back from Iraq, I saw my buddy. He had like 15 DVDs. He goes, "What do I do with all this?" It's a true story, but so I digitized all my journal, and thank goodness, because now that came out of it. But you know, getting into doing writing thing, do whatever works for you. You know, like we have a couple guys in our group, they don't do computer. Okay, that's okay. We're trying to work with them, you know, and trying to help them around that. But yeah.
I was in before we had no bad pencil.
Right.
I was in the 70s. We didn't really have a luxury of it.
Yeah.
But one more thing is that some people here, they have the difficulty of handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So do you advise using a tape, like a microphone?
Yeah, there's ways. I researched a little for the one gentleman, because I was just going to go buy him a dictaphone thing, you know. Right. And I went online looking for them, and they start at about $70, $100, where you can just, it's a recording device. And then I did more research, and it said that if you have a smartphone, it has the same capability, and you don't got to pay for it. I said, oh. And then I got kind of my plate full, so I signed that kind of project to one of our guys, a younger guy. Help him with that. Use your phone, so you can transcribe orally into a recording device, and there are mechanisms to print that out. You know, I'm not an expert at it, but I looked on it on Google, and there's ways of doing that. I'm not fully proficient at that, but you can do that.
Yeah, I'm saying that some people have struggled to transfer from their thoughts to paper, so
yeah, record it.
It's more
Absolutely.
To,
absolutely. Yeah, and there's ways of doing that on your cell phone, you know, so you don't have to go out and spend money. Because I literally, everything I've done on my own. I had a mentor help me with the first couple of books. Now, what he does, I basically was kind of an apprentice for Andreas, and he has been gracious with his time, and I've done like Zoom training sessions with him. I'd record them on how to do the step-by-step of doing a book. Like you saw on my computer, it had Kindle Creates. Kindle Creates is a program that Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, has created. Amazon has basically created an environment where anybody can produce a book. It takes some work and it's not as easy said than done. But I've acquired those skills through the training with Andreas. And that's why I'm trying to convey it on to other people, other veterans, if they want assistance. Now you could go pay people, called vanity presses and such, to do like one of my books. You could pay $15,000 to produce an entire book cover, formatting, all that. You can pay anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 to have somebody do it for you. You just give them the ideas or the raw content. But I do it all, and my only real out-of-pocket costs are like copyright. You have to get an ISBN number, Library of Congress number kind of thing. You know, I do web page and Grammarly. I have some costs that I've incurred along the way, but that's my choice. But you technically don't need to spend any money if you really want to do it all yourself. I mean, you can do YouTubes and stuff. Or the most important thing for me learning was having a mentor. You know, and everybody I know that's done anything in writing has had mentors. And again, that's one reason why I'm here. You know, if I can be of any assistance, that's how I got to where I am. And I think I'm still going somewhere even further in the future. But it's because by the good nature of people helping me.
How do you rid yourself of being a critic? For an example, when I write something and I read it, if I don't read it within an hour, heck, I can't read it because of my handwriting and my being so critical of what I've written. So I think it's all in my head. It might be somewhere else, but when I...
The thing is when you're doing any kind of writing, don't self-edit. Just write. Like I talked about that free writing exercise. Just write. Don't pass judgment. Write whatever comes in your head. All the editing and fixing up and changing comes later, after you've gotten to an end state. Then you go back and start picking stuff out and worry about spelling and all that. But when you're starting out, just get the ideas out there.
You use AI?
AI is a tool. It's a tool. It's kind of like Grammarly. And Grammarly and Google all use AI. Okay, so if you've used Google or you've used AI. So it can be a dirty word in the literary world, but that's like, if somebody wants to go to AI and say, write me a book about XYZ, it's going to spit out some book. That's not appropriate. It's not going to be marketable, and it's just not what you should do as a writer. However, you have a story and you've written, you have a 150-page manuscript, and you want to have it spell checked, grammar checked. AI is good for that. It's a tool, okay? Maybe finding the right word here and there, but not to create original creation for you. That's kind of like that's where you cross the line. But if you stay this side of the line with AI, it's a useful tool.
All right, friends, so it is past 2 o'clock now, so that does conclude our event. I want to give one last big round of applause for Lieutenant Colonel McBrearty.